Okay, so it seems we're streaming. So I'm welcome anybody who's coming along. I thought I would go ahead and share in, I want to play around a little bit with Swoole, and I thought I would share that on the stream because why not? So, so I'm going to kind of read along through and kind of play with it a little bit. I want to install Swoole and see. First, I'll build some sort of Docker environment and using my standard Docker setup. And then after I get that done, then what I'll do is go ahead and play around with installing Swoole and maybe even create some way to use it. I'm not sure how it'll go. I haven't actually touched it before, but it's something that I wanted to do, so might as well go ahead and stream it. This is going to be a total fail. It's going to be ugly. It's going to be nasty, but anyway, I want to test my streaming setup at the same time I do all this, and we'll see how it goes. So, so I'll share what I can as I go, and so I'll go ahead and share my desktop. So here I've got the Swoole site already opened up, and just as the documentation to show how to get it up and working. I think to start off with, though, maybe it might be better to get an environment set up and working. So I think I might give that a try. First off, I want to test the chat. See, okay, so that seems to be working. So, all right, so I've got the chat up and working. So if anybody pops in, feel free to chat, say hi, what have you. As I'm going through, let me know you're there. Whether you're coming in through YouTube or Twitter, or whether you're coming through Mixer. I've hopefully got all three running right now, and it seems to be. I can see Mixer working. I can see Twitch is working, and YouTube, let's see, let me refresh YouTube and see if it's still up, and it appears it is too. So yeah, we've got all three platforms up and working. So let me go ahead and with that in mind, hi Kershak, thank you for coming in. Yeah, great. Yeah, I see the little Twitch logo beside your name there, letting me know where you came from. That's awesome. I like that. Okay, so anyway, as I said, I'm playing around a little bit with Swoole. I'm going to install it in a Docker environment. So first thing I'm going to do is set up a Docker environment. So let me first get something open here. So I'm going to I think I'm going to copy over my standard Docker setup. And then go from there. So let's go ahead and in a new window, I'm going to open up a new window and go to my projects directory. I keep a directory just for projects, and I have other projects in there. So I want to create a new folder. Swoole test. Okay, so now I've got that directory. Now in there, I'm going to go ahead and create some sample things. So I'm going to start off with my typical setup. And that typical setup is, I'm going to copy it over from one of my other past applications. Let's see. So I'm going to need a container build folder, and I'll show you what's in that in just a moment, because I need to go in and look at it myself. And I want the docker-compose file. Okay, so that's what we're going to start off with, is just that. So using those, using the docker-compose, I'm going to edit that. So let's edit it in Ultra Edit, because I want to take a look at it and make sure it's what I would expect. So I've got the container build /web/Dockerfile. That's pretty standard in my standard MySQL database stuff. That's all pretty standard. The standard port that I use for my Docker containers, and then of course I've got a MySQL container in there as well. Okay, so I don't really have to touch the Docker Compose at all. So what I might have to do though is I might have to, in the container build, I have a web directory, and then I have a Dockerfile for just a standard web setup. So I've updated it. I'm using PHP 7.2 with Apache. So that's going to give me a Docker file. That's going to give me a Docker container that is running Apache, and it's already using 7.2. And one thing I want to do is I'm going to use the MariaDB client. These default Docker images from the PHP core stuff is it's all using Debian. So this is going to be using Debian as the server, and because of that, it has MariaDB client instead of MySQL client. MySQL client or MariaDB client is open source, so Debian trying to be true to its roots only includes those open source things. However, the rest of this setup looks good. All right, so what I'm going to do, I don't have any naming in here because it automatically names based on the location. So I'm going to go ahead and close that. Okay, so in swoole test, we've got that. Now, one thing I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and testing files. Actually, I could just do open. So I'm going to select open, and we're going to go expand Atom Culp, go into projects, and go into our swoole test, click OK, and now it'll open up in that directory, and we'll have access to our files. I like using PhpStorm for a lot of this because then it makes it easier to kick off Docker and get Docker up and running. So what I want to do is down to services, then I'm going to start up Docker. Looks like we got a lot of folks coming in, so thanks again for coming in. Those of you who are viewing and just now coming in, I'm just hacking on some swoole today. Just gonna install swoole and get it up and working in a brand new project, just kind of playing with it a little bit. I've not played with swoole too much, so I want to give it a try. And so I'm using the video to do that. So if you're following along or watching, that's what I'm doing. So this is going to be very hacky. It's not a normal Beachcast episode by any means. This is just me hacking and trying to play with swoole. At the moment, I'm getting a Docker container up and working. So we'll see how that goes. So I have Docker here working from the previous, but it's not running. I don't have any Docker containers running right now. What I want to do is add a configuration. Add a configuration for Docker. Here we go, Docker Compose, because that's what I've got set up. And we'll call this swoole test, the same as our project. And the compose file, we'll tell it where to find the compose file. Right there, docker-compose.yml. Say okay, so that's in there. So now click apply. We now have our swoole test. And that should be all I need. So now if I click play on this, it might take it a minute to go through and do the installation, and it might even fail. So again, this is very, very much off the cuff, just hacking something together. So, all right, cool. So it looks like it's using some previous things that I had working because it's already had those cached from using the same PHP image files and MySQL image files, everything from... Oh, I know why the MySQL didn't work, because I didn't copy over the data directory. Yeah, that's why it didn't work. Okay. So now let me go ahead and add in a new PHP file, index, and in there we'll just do echo test. So now if I go back to my browser, refresh that, still didn't work. Expecting a public location. Again, this Docker file was used with other examples, and it's expecting there to be a new directory. We'll call this directory public. And then we'll drag this index up to public, relocating it. And now in the browser, change this back to 8080. And now our index PHP is working. So, all right, so there, now we've got it working because it's expecting a public directory. Cool. So we've got a web server to play with. Now, what we don't have is, let's look at the swoole documentation here. And so in swoole, this is just going to be a quick and dirty, get up and working fast. So in swoole, we want to do pecl install swoole. Do we have to do anything else, or is that it? Looks to be it. All right, since we're using Linux, we're going to do that pecl install swoole and out. So I went to, in the terminal, I'm going to do docker, where'd it go? There it is, exec, IT, and then the container name, and then bash. So now I need the container name, properties, my container ID, go in the terminal. Now this is going to give me a really long one, so I have to, that's not what I wanted. Okay, so that's correct, but I need to get rid of container ID. It'd be nice if I could copy and paste that in PhpStorm, you know, straight away, instead of having to, and you copy and paste it, then it ends up being the entire thing. Okay, so now I'm inside the container, and if I do PHP, actually no, it's pecl, right? Going back to here, yeah, pecl install swoole. And again, I don't know if that'll work, but we'll give it a try. Pecl install swoole. Now we're running as root inside the Docker container, because when you get a bash shell, enable socket support. That's a good question. I don't know. What does the swoole documentation say? So it doesn't really say. It just says issue that command. But yeah, why not? All right, so let's just go ahead. Actually, the default is no, enable socket support. The default's no, so I'm going to go with no. Enable SSL support, no. Stick with the defaults. No HTTP2, MySQL ND. I'm not going to worry about that right now. Okay, so there. Now it's going through finishing the install. Yeah, you're right, Kershak. I was thinking, you know, I thought about that real hard, about just going ahead and adding it, and then if I don't need it, that's fine. But the thing is if I added it and then it prevented the default things from working, then how do I undo it, right? Do I have to remove it and reinstall it again? So anyway, I think it's easier, hopefully it's easier to activate it after the fact if I really wanted it. So that's my story. I'm sticking to it. We'll see how that adds up. All right, so it looks like it installed. So it says it's installed successfully. It's telling me where the extension is installed, because it is just an extension to PHP. So we used pecl and we included swoole as an extension, and it's got that working, telling me where the configuration PhpINI is, and also a little bit more. Oh, it says I should add. So I have to update my PhpINI myself. Interesting. So So let me copy that. Yeah, I hear you. No prep equals the best streams is true. As long as you're very good at it. And so I guess we'll see. All right, so the PhpINI, let's go on a journey and see where they put the PHP. Okay, there's a PhpINI. Which one is it using? There's two, but I can go into conf D. There are additional ones in there, so I can actually add one in here. And so I'm going to do that. And I'm going to call it swoole.ini. And we'll copy the extension swoole right in there. So now, if we restart Apache, yeah. Booted me out of the terminal because I restarted Apache. Interesting. Did my container name change? Did the container completely shut down? The container completely shut down. All right. So I crashed the container. Actually, the DB came back up and working now too. All right, fun times. Crashing containers. So now let's go ahead and put this in. Oh, I'm not sure. Yeah, it actually did keep the same ID. I could have just kept it. I just wasn't sure. So that gets me in there. And if I do start, it says it started, okay. Now we should have things back up and working again. Let's see. Okay, so test works. Info.php, there we go. Okay, so info.php is working. What I want to do is, looks like swoole is working, cool. And we have a whole section for swoole. So now we've got swoole up and working. Yep, nice. Okay, so now let's go back over to the swoole site and we'll see, let's run some other examples here just to play with it a little bit. So now we've got that. So now the HTTP server. So swoole comes with its own HTTP server. So let's, I'm just gonna follow their example. Copy and paste is our friend. So if I do this, now if I do that though, there's a client, there's all that. What is that going to do? There's a WebSocket server, but I said don't use sockets, so I guess we're just using swoole HTTP server. And that's actually going to kick up that's going to give a port, but that port won't be available to us because I used a container. That's a problem. So since I'm using a container, that port is not going to be available externally, so I really won't be able to use it, but we can still use it inside the container depending on what they're going to do as an example. Okay, so let's see. We have a server, we have a client, new swoole client, and that's where we can do some hellos and things like that. Tasks. Okay, well, I think pretty much if I can get it working and have a client that actually pulls that would be awesome, right? But to follow along their examples, I'm going to need that port opened up externally from swoole inside the Docker container. All right, and that is port 9501. What I'm going to do is keep that port on the text file so I remember it, because I can't remember things from 1 minute to the next. Okay, so inside our Docker container, we want to open that up. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to exit out of that. So I'm exit out, I'm back just to my command line. We have the services running. I'm going to go ahead and take down that Docker container completely. Just trash it. Get rid of it. We don't want it. I'm going to rebuild that Docker container, but we're going to add some things. We're going to build swoole. Now that we built swoole, we know how to build swoole. So I'm going to instead do pecl install swoole, just like that, inside my Dockerfile. So now it'll build swoole from the beginning. And then I can also, in my composer, or in my Docker Compose rather, I'm going to create another port here, and we're going to do 9501 and just pass it through as is. I'm not running 9501 on my local system, so this should be good. It should pass from inside the container out to my external machine, so I should be able to use it here, and regardless, I'll be able to use it inside. Okay, so now I've got those two things updated. It should do the swoole install, and that will also then restart the web server after it gets done, because I'm doing it on the Docker build. So let's go ahead and kick that off. It's going to build the new Docker containers. Okay, so hey, I knew there was a swoole test default. Is that okay? Okay, so now it says it's done, because of course we've got everything already there. So if I kick this off, PhpStorm is still working. Now swoole is not installed, so that did not install. And that would be because it didn't actually rebuild the entire container. Instead it reused. So let's do this. I'm going to go ahead, let's destroy that one. I can get rid of that one. I have these helper containers. I have other images here. So if I get rid of this image, it'll rebuild this image, hopefully with swoole. Hopefully it lets me do that. Okay, yeah, it does. So even though it used the image to build the other container, the Doctor and Expressive example is still going to exist because it's already a container. But now it's not going to reuse that image. So instead it's going to build a brand new image in order to create the new container. So now let's go ahead and kick this off. It should take a little bit longer to build. Actually it didn't. So why didn't it take longer to build? I would have expected it to take longer to build, because it's got to install swoole. Yeah, so it still hasn't installed swoole. So why is it not doing it new? Let's trash that again. Okay, and what I'm going to do then is I'm going to use simple Docker UI. I like using simple Docker UI. It comes in handy for stuff like this because I'm just going to delete everything. I don't have any running containers. I want to just delete containers. Delete everything. All right, so I've got this one. Go ahead and remove it. Variable example. I think I can safely get rid of that one too, because I can rebuild that quickly. Get rid of that one. I'm just going to get rid of everything. Start back from scratch. Okay, got no containers. Images. Let's just garbage collect. You know what? I didn't garbage collect last time. So even though I deleted the images, I'm just going to get rid of all of these. And we can get rid of BusyBox. It doesn't like it anyway. So, all right. So everything's cleaned up. I don't have anything in Docker right now. It would have taken a lot longer to do that via CLI, so it's easier just to use that. Okay, so now I've got no containers, no images, nothing in Docker whatsoever. So now, if I do this install, now it should take some time, because now it's going to pull and create all the images and everything else. So while it's doing that, anybody who just is now coming in, thanks for coming. This is just Adam hacking, playing with swoole a little bit, but now I'm trying to tackle building a Docker container in order to build swoole. I did build swoole already, had it working, but I wanted to build some extra additional servers and clients on swoole, following the swoole examples on their website. And so to do that, I'm installing swoole. Even though I did it manually, I know it worked and everything. I'm trying to do it inside the Docker container prior to me using the Docker container. So pre-build it. So I've set up my Dockerfile. So now I'm doing pecl install swoole, which is what they required when I did it manually. And then in my docker-compose, I'm adding a port, just a sample port to use as the client. So I'm waiting now for the new Docker container to build with that all done in it. Okay, Composer's doing its installs now. And now it says that the containers are working. So we seem to have struggled our way through. So the web container, yep, it's working. There's a solid square there and a solid square beside the DB. So those should be working. So now if I go back over here and see if my PHP script is working, and it is. Still don't see swoole though. Why is that? It seemed to go through all those installs just fine. You know, I wonder, I know what it is. Even though I installed swoole, it didn't update the configuration files. It didn't add a swoole.ini, including the swoole. So even though it installed swoole, it didn't include the swoole.ini. So we can do that. I can do that manually actually, and that's what I'm going to do. Normally I would add a line in my Dockerfile that would say, okay, now that you've installed swoole, now create a new in user local etc/php, or actually in the config directory, etc local, etc local php in there in the config d directory, create a swoole.ini file. And so we're gonna have to do that manually. So in my web, I've got my container. I need to go to the terminal. Okay, that container ID did change. So what I want to do is in a terminal, I want to bring up, can't use that number anymore. That's the old one. We want this one. So now we're get a bash shell inside the container. And if I go to user local PHP, that's not what I wanted. User local etc PHP, and in there we have conf d. Oh, yeah, conf g. That's not going to work. Conf d is where I needed to go. Okay, so now I'm in there, so I can create a swoole.ini, and in there I want to include swoole.so, was it? I think so. All right. I'm just making some notes as I go, just in case I need them later. Okay. So now we've got that, so we'll issue service, Apache 2, restart. And yeah, it did the same thing. It dumped me out of the terminal. It actually killed the, did the same thing, killed the container. So we'll tell PhpStorm to execute that again, just get it back up and working. Now it's back up. Now I can exec back in. And meanwhile, let's see. Okay, the web server is running. So that's fast. And I see swoole is there, so we have the swoole section. So okay, so we've got swoole up and working again. So now we can go on to some more examples playing around. So, okay. So now in their site, they give an example of an HTTP server and kicking that off, and it gives an HTTP start, right? Now the thing is if I wanted to use the client, new swoole client. Although they have these getting started scripts out there, they don't really give you much along the lines of what to do with them, right? So what I am going to do, I'm just going to copy paste because I want to test it and see. I'm not going to bother reading documentation. All right, so I'm going to create a new PHP file, and we're just going to call this server. And in there, we're just going to paste this in. Okay. So now if I execute that, and yeah, execute that, so server.php. Didn't like that. It's still running? Yeah, that's still running, but it didn't like server.php. So it's running on, I wonder if it, no, it should be passing through. So I'm kicking up the server. Let's do an HTTP start. I wonder if I have to just kick that off at a terminal. Let's do that. So we have server. So if I do PHP server.php, okay, so this swoole server is started. So now we've got it there. Okay, we have a server. Now what do I do with that server? what we do is, there was another file that they had there, which was client, right? So let's just create this client based on their example. And this is going to give us just some base things to go with. All right. So now we've got client, we're connecting, and we're going to send hello world. We're going to receive data, which I don't know what that's all about. And connection failed, error. Oh, okay, so it's looking at so once it's doing on, it's kind of like switching from one to the next till it gets through all the way through, right? I don't know. Again, they don't give a lot of information. Hey, how's it going, Peter? How to code well? Thanks for popping in. So I'm just hacking on Swoole a little bit, playing around. I've not used Swoole before, so I thought, well, let me go ahead and give it a try. So I'm hacking on it live, and this is not prepared at all. I'm really just copying and pasting examples from the Swoole website. Got Swoole up and running in a Docker container, and I've not messed with Swoole before. Have you had a chance to mess with Swoole? I know you get to play. Oh, okay. You play around with things more often than I do, I think. But anyway, so now I've got, via the command line, you can see in the lower half of the screen, I've got the terminal up and running. I've actually issued the command. I've called this server.php, which says create a new Swoole HTTP server at port 9501, right? So we've done that, and it tells me, it's echoing out that the server has started. So we've got that. Now what I did is I copied and pasted this client information from their site, because on the one thing on the Swoole site, they have all the examples here, but that's all it is. It just says getting started and has all these examples here, but it doesn't really give any other information about each example. So I'm just playing. And so we're all doing this together. Now the thing is I've issued that. What I think I'm going to do, so I've kind of hit a wall at the moment. I'm going to have to do some more detailed reading. I don't know that I need to spend time reading through documentation on the stream, but anyways, supposedly the Swoole server is running. I'm not able to make any requests to it. I'm not able to use their script that they had on their site. So I'm curious as to how to use it. And I know there are many people who have, so it does work. I just need to do some research and see where I go to from here. But hopefully you found this stream so far useful. You know, where I've gone in and I've at least set up a Docker image, and I've installed Swoole in the Docker image, and it is working. Everything's working fine there. And so I'm going to go ahead and end the stream with this. I hope everything, hope there is something in here useful for everyone. And I thank everyone for watching. Please say hi in the chat. The chat keeps going, so please feel free to say hi. Let me know you're there. I see we have quite a few people actually on Twitter and or on Twitch rather, and quite a few on YouTube throughout this stream, and not many on Mixer. I think only I am watching on Mixer. That's why there's one on Mixer, and those are the three along the bottom of the screen there. Those are the three things that are there. Is there, way over there, the other side. All right, so anyway, I'm going to go ahead and end this. Thanks everyone for coming around. I hope you enjoyed it, and maybe after I do some document searching and things, I'll do another follow-up with my findings on that, and then we can actually play with the server a little bit and see how that goes. Take care, everyone.